Hi, my name is Emily Yee, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I specialize in working with teenagers and their families, and this series has been about working with gifted adults. And so I might work with the teenager for a while and we move into young adulthood, or I start working with the parent of the teenager who is also gifted and has never processed what all of that means for them and how that affects their parenting. And so I've just noticed some trends in those conversations and wanted to share those with you. Earlier in this series, we talked about what would it be like to imagine respecting your nervous system and slowing down your life, or even making it smaller a little bit. Today, we're going to look at what would it mean if you're living a life that really isn't meant for you, and this idea of feeling like you're too much all the time is because you are shoved into a box that doesn't fit. And so we're going to unpack that a little bit if you want to hang out. There can be a little bit of a identity crisis that can happen if you realize later on in life that you are a gifted person or a very intense person, and you might stumble upon highly sensitive persons, a HSP diagnosis or title, or giftedness, ADHD, autism, all of these things that are neurodivergent, people that think differently, and you discover that later on in life. You might look back on your life and think, wow, I was totally misunderstood. Nobody really could help me understand myself. And here you are as an adult, rediscovering who you are after you've already built a life for yourself that might include a spouse and children and roots and a job, and you're kind of rethinking it. It can be empowering, like, okay, there's no shame in my game. I'm just different and this is great. But it might be a little bit like, oh, this life doesn't really fit me anymore, and what can I do to change it up? You can't create a life for yourself that fits you uniquely if you don't know who you are. So that would be a task ahead of you, is to slowly and surely get to know yourself. It's very common with very intense people to experience burnout or to be masking 60% of the time when you're in a professional working environment, and then to come home and not be able to turn it on, have a personality, have conversation with your family, and to wonder how other people do it. It might take looking at your daily life and figuring out how you can tweak it to make more room for yourself. If we're kind of coming at this from the other side of things, instead of your life is full of social engagements and you want to find pockets where you can breathe and regulate your nervous system, that was the previous video. If we're looking at, I have to squeeze myself into being consistent all the time and not showing too much emotion and not going on deep dives, keeping things very surface level, and I feel so bored in my everyday life that it feels like depression, but it's just because I'm not stimulated enough, then we could be thinking about how can we put ourselves in bigger spaces. You're a big fish, you need a big pond. And what does that look like for you to think of yourself that way? When maybe you've been raised by adults or surrounded by a community that said, no, we need you to fit in this box. We're not going to go beyond the box. And here you are as an adult and you're like, I think I want to try to go beyond the box. I'm here for that. And I want to encourage you to do that. And so what does that look like for you? So if you've created a life that is to meet other people's needs and to be convenient for them, so you've kind of shrunk yourself down, you've limited yourself, and now you recognize that that's not healthy for you, and you kind of want to take a swing at what it would look like to just be all that you can be, then you might need to be comfortable with disappointing those who wanted you to be in that box to begin with. And that might be something that we need to unpack in a session one-on-one, because nobody else knows you like you know you and can help you navigate that better than yourself. You just need to create the space to explore that. And then getting to know yourself and what is important to you, and it's not that you're not considering those around you, but maybe you've never been considered in this equation, your personality, your gifts, what you bring to the table. And maybe from the beginning, it's always been about those around you. So bringing it back to What do you bring to the table? What do you value? What lights you up? And exploring that a little bit more deeply, and understanding what your nervous system needs in order to feel that balance, to go to work. And not everybody can say, oh, work doesn't feel like work. And I'm not going to say that for me, work never feels like work. But a lot of the times work doesn't feel like work. It's what I am passionate about. It's what I love to do. I think it's what I'm made for. And I'm wondering if that's something that could be for you too. If you're getting home and you're masking the majority of the day and you have nothing left to give at the end of the day, then we might need to rethink, what does that majority of the day need to look like so that you can be your authentic self? And understanding what you need, what your nervous system needs to last into the evening when you are home with your family and you want to have more to give. And this, again, is a one-on-one conversation where we need to unpack this a little bit more, but identifying what you need is going to be a part of the process. So just wrapping up this whole series that we've been talking about of coming into adulthood, still gifted or in whatever way you are neurodivergent, and understanding how to build a life that fits your needs and understanding what that might look like. So we've kind of covered the gamut of relationships, shrinking down if that's what's necessary, expanding the box if that's what's necessary, understanding how you're different and where that might have come from, whether it's your childhood or just your neurodivergence, understanding that to begin with, and living a life that works for you, which is not going to work for everyone else, but only you can know if what you're doing is working, if it's sustainable for the long run, if it's the life that you want to live. If you're interested in exploring any more of this, I'd love to meet with you. My website is jacksonvillecreativetherapy.com, and a lot more information is there. You can fill out a form that I'll get today, and we'll schedule a phone call and get started.